You are streaming CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John. Some notable late games. Ranked matchup, Mississippi State and Kentucky. BMAC earmuffs Clemson laying 4.5 at Florida State. It was 3.5 last night. And then out west, Pac-12, USC and Utah, with the Utes laying 3.5 at home. All right, back here with my cappers here on the Q. Kenny White, John Berger, and Bryant McFadden. Okay, so ranked matchup. We got Hail State at Kentucky, where the home team is a dog in this scenario with a total at 50. Now, Kenny does have a play in the total, but John and BMAC are on the same side. So which side is that, John? I'll start with you.
I think Mississippi State covers. Mississippi State, in my opinion, has been one of those teams kind of flying under the radar, certainly on mine. I kind of popped up and took a look at these guys. I was surprised by what I saw offensively. When you pull some of the tape and you look at it, this is a very good football team at throwing the ball downfield. In fact, top 10. I think they'll be top 10 the entire season. You flip over to the other side and you look at Kentucky. Kentucky's been really consistent under Stoops. You wonder at what point Stoops gets a bigger offer, better offer, and leaves Kentucky for a bigger job. But he's done a phenomenal job with that defense, and he's really put together some recruiting classes and turned that program around, made it respectable, made it relevant. But I just think in this situation, there's going to be too much offense throwing the ball downfield. The other thing is Kentucky gives up a lot of sacks. And so you think about the defensive game plan for Mississippi State. Mississippi State has been somewhat inconsistent defensively. But when you're going up against a team that gives up a lot of sacks, that also creates a lot of opportunity for turnovers. So I think the game plan is to be ultra aggressive on that defensive side for Mississippi State. I think they can create some sacks. I think they can create some chaos and some turnovers. They certainly have the personnel to do it. But I think Mississippi State covers. I think they do it behind that air attack, one of the top air attacks in the country.
I'm right there with you, John. Give me Mississippi State covering this 3.5, and here's why. The balance that I've seen from them on both sides of the football has been well documented. The last three opponents they faced off against, they've outscored those said opponents 127-55. They've been playing lights out on both sides of the football. Secondly, Will Rogers, he's like the Steph Curry of the SEC in regards to quarterback play and how fast he can put up big time numbers and how fast he can score points. When you look at what he's done, completing almost 72% of his passes, 22 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 2,100 yards. He's been under the radar because nationally no one is really talking about him. But when you turn on the tape and watch him do his work, my goodness, he's been on point. And then when you talk about some of the struggles in regards to Kentucky, we don't know the status of Will Levis, but one thing I do know, their offense has struggled, especially over the last 2 weeks. And then defensively, last week, they just fell down. They were fatigued. They were tired. They didn't play the type of defense that we've seen under Stoops. And I think that has really taken a toll on them based on how stagnant their offense has been. Allowed almost 200 yards on the ground to South Carolina. So this is a big opportunity for Mississippi State to get more recognition nationally. And I think they will be able to do so under Will Rogers.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all, guys. You win in Mississippi State, maybe running this up. Mike Leach, number 1 passing team in the country. Obviously, we know Mike Leach is the head coach. They're going to throw it 3 out of 4 times. They always do, and that's why Will Rogers has such great numbers. But it's a battle of wills. Will Levis will play today. He's completing 10 yards per pass, 69% completions, and that is the strength of this Kentucky offense, throwing the football. Their run game has struggled. Chris Rodriguez is back with smoke in the backfield. They have talented playmakers. I think this game goes over the total because of the passing for both teams. It's going to be a game where there's going to be at least 80 passes thrown here, which will stop the clock. First down, stopping the clock. This is going to be a game that I hope lasts at least 4 hours today. Going to be a lot of fun to watch.
All right, love it. Let's move on to number 4, Clemson, laying 4.5 at Florida State with a total at 51. That's a 7:30 kick. And it was 3.5 last night. So, John, sit tight. I know you've got a play on the side here, but Kenny and BMAC are on the same side with the total. BMAC, are you going under or over the 51 number here?
Well, a little quick info in regards to BMAC. Anytime Florida State is involved in a betting opportunity, I stay away from it because I'm already emotionally invested. It's hard to be emotionally invested and financially invested. But because it's my job to give you sound information and entertain you while doing that, I have a play for you. Give me the under in this ball game, and here's why. For the very first time, it seems like the entire season, right? Clemson's defense will be healthy. Xavier Thomas is back. Brian Breesy is back. 2 outstanding guys who will be playing on Sunday. So when you factor that into the equation, it's going to be very, very difficult for Florida State to score points. But then in regards to Florida State's defense, yes, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries, especially on the front, but they found a unique way to be successful against teams. And playing at home, Tallahassee will be jumping, especially the first half. They're going to be standing. Nobody can sit down. Everybody's going to be fired up, and the defense will feed off of that momentum to make things light for DJU and company. So I'm taking the under, understanding and knowing that when Clemson plays on the road, the last 5 matchups, the under is 5-0. It's something about Clemson. Offensively, they have some issues on the road, but defensively, you know it's going to be hard to create points if you're Florida State. So that's what I would advise you guys to do. But me, for this game, I stayed away from it because my heart is already tied. I can't have my heart and my pockets tied because clearly my pressure might be too high to come down, and I don't want to go to urgent care tonight.
You just talked for 2 minutes and you didn't even make the bet. Is that what you're saying, B-Mac?
You didn't even take a
I didn't
breath.
make the bet personally, but I gave something for you guys to make. For the guys and girls that are watching me, take the under. I said the under.
You made it
under.
smart. Got it. All right. Cool.
Got it.
Yeah, I did make the bet, B-Mac. I went under this total. A lot of it has to do with a lot of what you were talking about. Clemson struggles on the road offensively, and their defense has really turned plays around into points for the offense. They score 39 a game, but yet I have them ranked 58th in the country in adjusted yards per play, and they're up against the top 30 defense on the road at Florida State. I think their offense struggles today. Florida State's offense has struggled the last 2 weeks. They've scored 38 points combined against Wake Forest and North Carolina State the last 2 weeks. The Clemson defense I've got ranked 19th in defensive yards per play. So this is a big game. Last year, 30-20, Clemson wins this game at home. I think it's a little lower scoring than that today. I think you're going to get a 24-20 football game.
All right.
Yeah, I think in this situation, load up on the under. Take the free money off the table, Clemson on the money line. But I agree with what Kenny and BMAC said. I'm a lot less emotional with BMAC. I'm not going to talk 2 minutes and then not make the bet. But anyway, I think you take Clemson on the money line, take the under. I still believe, guys, you may disagree, but I think when Clemson's defensive line is healthy, I still think they're a top 10, top 15 defensive line. They're getting healthier. I understand that Florida State offensively is kind of surging. They've been consistent on that side of the ball. I just think this is going to be a stalemate. That's why I'm going to put the bigger money on the under, but pick up the free money with Clemson on the money line.
Love it. So if it's for me, I'm laying 20 to win 10 on Clemson. And by the way, BMAC could take the jersey that he has over his left shoulder. I might take Florida State, but since that's not going to be the case, that's not going to be an option for any of us there.
Better hurry up.
Today,
He's going
right?
to be suiting up soon.
All right. Lastly, I did reference Pac-12 out on the West Coast. Number 7, USC catching 3.5 in Salt Lake City against Utah. That total at 65. We've been getting some action both on the line and on the total. So when we take a look at what's going on here, we finally have a little bit of friction because Kenny's on one side of the total and BMAC's on the other side of the total. So Kenny, are you going over or under in this game with that 65 number?
Yeah, I'm going over it. BMAC's a defensive guy, so that's why he's going under here. But, I love the offense. Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, Travis Dye, they've been explosive. I have USC number 10 in the country in adjusted yards per play on offense, number 74 on defense. They will give up yards. They will give up points, especially on the road against a well-coached Whittingham team. Cam Rising, 69% completions, 13 touchdowns, just 3 INTs. Caleb Williams, 14 touchdowns, 1 INT. 2 quarterbacks have combined for 27 touchdowns this year and just 5 interceptions. I see it going back and forth. Both offenses averaging over 40 points per game. And again, I think the USC defense is rather average. Their offense, top 10, obviously. But Cam Rising and company, they do some things offensively that can put points on the board here. They're going to be in it, obviously. They're the favorite to win the game. And I'm thinking USC is going to get 35 here today.
Well, I'm taking the under, and here's why I'm taking the under. USC's defense, one thing they've done extremely well so far this year, sacking the quarterback. They actually lead the nation in sacks. They have 24 sacks to be exact. And what we saw last week for Utah, uncharacteristic type ball game defensively, allowed over 40 points, 42 to be exact. We know how stout they can be, especially at home. And then in regards to points allowed, get this, these teams are basically behind each other in league play. Utah, they're number 2 in the Pac-12, only allowing 19 points. SC's defense is number 1. only allowing 18 points. Kenny, you talked about how consistent both offenses have been able to score, but I think understanding and seeing how high this total is, I don't exactly think both teams will score in the mid-30s. So me personally, I think this will be a nice defensive game, especially in the red zone, forcing either offense to settle for 3 points, and that could be the deciding factor in the under hitting, which I do believe it will hit. So give me the under.
You guys are all over the over/under. I love it. Look, I don't think we need to complicate winning here. All right, I'm going to take Utah to cover the number, and I'm going to do it for a couple different reasons. First of all, Utah is wildly consistent offensively and defensively. Okay, this is going to be a top 5, top 10 defense the entire season. They're well coached. They're blue collar. They don't make a lot of stupid mistakes. Tavion Thomas running the football. I trust him. Quarterback Cam Rising. I trust him. And more importantly, guys, when you're playing Utah, this is a football team that understands how to handle sudden change. And it's going to happen with USC. There's going to be times in this game when USC pops a couple of big plays where most teams would just shrink. They wouldn't react that well. They would get nervous, probably tighten up. You're not going to see that out of Utah. This is a team that handles sudden change. They're very well coached, good quarterback, good ground attack, top 10 defense. I'm going to take Utah behind that toughness and that offensive and defensive line to cover this number.
Lastly, guys, we got the best bet from the late games. John and BMAC on the same side. I'm actually going to start with Kenny. For nothing else, that he actually targeted a Mountain West game because I'm a Mountain West guy. My Spartans are laying more than a touchdown at Bulldog Stadium against Fresno State. And I know there's no Jake Haener. But it is also Devontae Adams' jersey retirement night. Going to be a little bit awkward tonight. I'm just going to say there in the Central Valley. Kenny, you're grabbing points, my understanding, tonight in that Mountain West late game.
A big rivalry game. And Fresno losing Jake Haener in that USC game was big. They went on the road the next week to Connecticut and just didn't even show up. Logan Fife got his first road start. The next week they played Boise State, and they were in that game for a little bit. Fife made a couple mistakes. Again, on the road. Boise's not a bad football team. They beat them 40-20. I think they get home now. They regroup. They're playing one of their bigger rivals. They're getting over a touchdown at home. I don't think San Jose is that great of a team. Brett Brennan's done a nice job there, but this is San Jose State, remember, we're talking about. We're not talking about, I don't know. We're not talking about Minnesota or Illinois or a Big Ten team. We're talking about a Mountain West team that's been in the bottom feeder of the conference for so many years. Yeah, they got destroyed by Fresno last year. They'd love to probably make up for that, but I don't think they have the athletes to do it. And I think Fresno comes to play today. I think today is the wake-up call. I think they could win this game straight up. I think they're the better team still, even without Haener. If Haener was playing, they're 2-touchdown favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to give you two of them. I think Kenny might have talked about this earlier in the show, but I think Wisconsin covers against Michigan State. When I unpack this game, there's nothing going on offensively with Michigan State. This is a team 104th in the country offensively. They're not even the top. Or they're sitting right at 113th in the country total defense. I think Wisconsin covers this number. I think the second one I'm looking at is Oregon State against Washington State. You line up these position groupings, guys, and you look at the coaches, the coordinators, all the position groupers. I couldn't find an argument to put two of those groups ahead of Oregon State. So I don't quite understand this number, but I like Oregon State to get this done.
Well, my best bet from the late games is James Madison playing against Georgia Southern. James Madison has really been a good team throughout the entire year on both sides of the football. But I'm really high on James Madison. Looking at the defense they're going against, Georgia Southern defense has allowed around 456 yards per ball game total. They have struggled. They're playing against a very, very hot offense that scores around 40 points, 44 to be exact. And defensively for James Madison, a very, very stout group as well, only allowing 14 points and only allowing around 220 yards total per ball game. This is almost too easy to be true. I'm jumping on James Madison. They have covered every game this season versus the ATS. They've been on fire when it comes to the reality side of things, and they've been on fire when it comes to the gambling side of things too. And I think that trend continues. Give me James Madison.
All right. Love it, gents. Brian McFadden, John Berger, and Kenny White. Guys, great hour. Good to be with you. Let's have a very good Saturday in college football. All right, when we come back, on deck, David Sampson. Best picks ahead of the AL and NLDS. And boy, we had some fun last night, too. Was it a bounce-back effort for the Dodgers? And what about the Guardians?
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.